At the heart of Japanese horror, few stories have left as lasting an impression as Ju-on, The Grudge. This saga doesn't rely on jump scares but on an inescapable curse. The concept is simple but terrifying. Anyone who enters a tragedy-marked house is doomed. The film's non-linear timelines and multiple perspectives create a chilling sense of inevitability. While the 2004 American remake introduced the curse to global audiences, the original Japanese films remain the most haunting, exploring how malevolent grudges transcend time and space. The Evil Dead saga began in 1981 with a low-budget film directed by Sam Raimi, which quickly became a cult classic due to its mix of visceral horror and dark humor. The 1987 sequel, Evil Dead 2, perfected this blend, offering a unique cinematic experience that oscillates between horror and slapstick comedy. Army of Darkness, 1992, took the franchise into more fantastical territory, while the 2013 reboot, directed by Fede Alvarez, presented a darker, bloodier version of the original story. The TV series Ash vs. Evil Dead, 2015 to 2018, continued the adventures of the iconic Ash Williams, played by Bruce Campbell, showcasing the franchise's versatility and longevity across different formats and eras. What began as an adaptation of a survival horror video game turned into one of the most successful film franchises in the genre. With Milla Jovovich leading as Alice, the Resident Evil movies combined high-octane action with biological horror, presenting a world ravaged by the Umbrella Corporation. While the film's faithfulness to the original material has been debated, the visual appeal, mutant creatures, and memorable action sequences have kept the saga in the spotlight. The 2021 reboot, Welcome to Raccoon City, aimed for a closer approach to the video games, proving that the appetite for apocalyptic horror remains unextinguished. When horror intertwines with moral punishment, the result is a franchise that redefines suffering. Saw not only popularized the torture PRN subgenre but also built an intricate mystery around its villain, Jigsaw, who doesn't kill directly but subjects victims to sadistic games to make them cherish life. What could have been a repetitive premise evolved into a complex serialized narrative across 10 films, with each twist revealing new layers of conspiracy and motivation. The franchise's ability to shock audiences with unexpected turns has kept it one of the most lucrative and enduring horror series. Since its debut in 1996, Scream became a breath of fresh air in the slasher genre, blending meta-cinematic self-awareness with a suspenseful narrative. Directed by Wes Craven and written by Kevin Williamson, the film introduced the enigmatic Ghostface killer, whose shifting identity kept viewers on edge. The sequels continued this tradition, exploring the rules of horror movies and adapting to the genre's evolution. The most recent installment, Scream 5, directed by Matt Bettinelli-Altman and Tyler Gillid, not only honored Craven's legacy but also revitalized the franchise for a new generation by addressing contemporary themes and delivering unexpected twists that resonated with both critics and audiences. Launched in 2013 with The Conjuring, this cinematic universe has expanded to include multiple interconnected stories exploring the supernatural. Based on the real-life cases of demonologists Ed and Lorraine Warren, portrayed by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga, the main films have been praised for their eerie atmosphere and solid storytelling. Spin-offs like the Annabelle trilogy and The Nun have expanded the franchise's mythology by exploring various entities and curses. Despite mixed critical reception of the spin-offs, the universe as a whole has maintained consistency in creating terrifying environments and memorable characters, establishing itself as one of the most successful horror franchises in history. Created by Clive Barker, Hellraiser debuted in 1987, introducing the Cenobites, extra-dimensional beings who explore the limits of pleasure and pain. The franchise stood out for its disturbing imagery and transgressive themes, exploring the nature of desire and the consequences of human curiosity. Although the sequels varied in quality, the franchise's rich mythology and the imposing presence of Pinhead, portrayed by Doug Bradley, maintained fan interest. Recently, new adaptations have aimed to revive the series' dark and philosophical essence. When horror invades the intimacy of the home, the fear becomes personal. Insidious, directed by James Wan, took a different approach to supernatural horror by exploring the Further, a spectral dimension where trapped souls linger. More than just a haunted house story, the franchise connects generations of a family haunted by malevolent entities. Each movie delves deeper into the mythology of the Further, blending psychological horror with well-crafted scares. The series has maintained its success thanks to its unsettling atmosphere and characters like Elise Rainier, who brings humanity and a touch of hope amid the darkness. Introducing Freddy Krueger to the world in 1984, A Nightmare on Elm Street fused supernatural horror with reality by exploring the vulnerability of dreams. Created by Wes Craven, the franchise became known for its imaginative dream sequences and Freddy's sardonic personality, portrayed by Robert Englund. The sequels expanded the character's mythology and delved into human psychology, maintaining a blend of horror and dark humor that cemented Freddy as a horror icon. Horror can lurk even in the most ordinary places. Poltergeist showed that the perfect suburb could hide terrifying secrets. Directed by Tobe Hooper and influenced by Steven Spielberg, the original 1982 film captured the fear of losing control over the familiar as invisible forces threatened a family. The sequels expanded on the story of young Carol Ann and the spiritual connection that haunted her, preserving a mix of wonder and terror. The 2015 remake attempted to update the story for a new audience, but the iconic power of the original trilogy remains unmatched. The Friday the 13th franchise is a cornerstone of slasher horror. Beginning in 1980, this iconic series introduced the world to Jason Voorhees, a relentless, nearly indestructible killer with a signature hockey mask. Set in the eerie Camp Crystal Lake, the films revolve around the gruesome murders of unsuspecting campers and counselors. What makes Jason terrifying is his uncanny ability to return from death, making him a symbol of unrelenting evil. The franchise's formula, creative kills, a haunting atmosphere, and a mysterious backstory, made Friday the 13th a staple of 80s horror. Despite numerous sequels, reboots, and even crossovers with A Nightmare on Elm Street, the essence of Jason's terror remains timeless, forever tied to the infamous day of Friday the 13th. With a chilling premise of an annual night where all crimes are legal, the Purge franchise has served as a platform to explore social and political themes. Each movie expanded the scope, from focusing on a single family in the first film to depicting chaos in the streets and broader socio-political implications in the sequels. The franchise has been praised for its ability to reflect and critique contemporary society, using horror as a medium to provoke thought and debate. Michael Myers needs no explanation, he is pure evil. Since his silent stalking in John Carpenter's original classic, this franchise has evolved over more than 4 decades, exploring different interpretations of the killer's psyche. Unlike other villains, Myers is an unstoppable force stripped of clear motivations, making him even more terrifying. The 2018 reboot, directed by David Gordon Green, brought the franchise back to its roots, ignoring previous sequels and focusing on the ultimate showdown between Laurie Strode, Jamie Lee Curtis, and the Boogeyman, proving that the terror of Halloween is timeless. Nothing is more terrifying than a creature that feeds on our deepest fears. Based on Stephen King's novel, it has transcended as one of the most disturbing horror stories ever adapted. The clown Pennywise, a cosmic entity that preys on the children of Derry, embodies a primal fear of the unknown. The 2017 and 2019 film adaptations, directed by Andy Muschietti, blend visceral horror with an emotional story of friendship, making the Losers Club's battle against Pennywise as resonant as the scares themselves. Rob Zombie elevated grindhouse horror with this violent, stylized franchise. The Devil's Rejects, a sequel to House of 1000 Corpses, abandoned its predecessor's grotesque surrealism for a blood-soaked thriller following the Firefly family on a deadly escape. The saga's unique angle is its focus on villains as protagonists, humanizing them while preserving their merciless brutality. The final chapter, 3 from Hell, continued the chaos, solidifying Zombie's macabre vision and his talent for crafting morally ambiguous characters that defy genre conventions. Released in 2007, Paranormal Activity revitalized the found footage subgenre, presenting a domestic horror story through home recordings. Its simple approach and gradual build-up of tension deeply resonated with audiences, making it a cultural phenomenon. The sequels expanded the mythology, exploring the afflicted family's history and the supernatural forces at play. Despite a repetitive formula, each installment introduced new elements and perspectives, maintaining audience interest in the franchise's scare factor. Since its inception in 2000, Final Destination has explored the premise of escaping death only to face even more macabre fates. Each film features a meticulously choreographed chain of fatal events, where death is portrayed as an inevitable and creative force. The sequels kept the concept fresh by inventing increasingly elaborate and surprising scenarios, playing with audience expectations and reflecting on the fragility of life and the inevitability of death. When an innocent toy becomes the center of horror, fear takes a new form. The Child's Play franchise turned Chucky, the doll possessed by the soul of a serial killer, into one of the genre's most recognizable villains. Beginning as a psychological horror story with supernatural elements in 1988, the series evolved while maintaining its macabre essence. Films like Bride of Chucky, 1998, and Seed of Chucky, 2004, introduced a self-aware comedic tone. The 2021 Chucky TV series has received praise for preserving the franchise's mix of horror, satire, and faithfulness to its origins. In the world of B-movie horror, few franchises have achieved cult status like Puppet Master. These films revolve around killer puppets brought to life by an ancient Egyptian spell. What might seem like an absurd concept has spawned over a dozen movies, each expanding the lore of the puppets and their creator, André Toulon. Throughout its installments, the franchise has shifted between gothic horror, science fiction, and macabre humor, proving that even the smallest monsters can leave a lasting impression. What happens when the true threat isn't just the virus, but human desperation? This British franchise redefined the zombie subgenre by introducing fast-moving infected in a bleak post-apocalyptic atmosphere. 28 Days Later terrified audiences with its raw depiction of societal collapse while presenting a new kind of biological horror. The sequel, 28 Weeks Later, expanded the narrative by portraying the consequences of rebuilding a devastated society, blending visceral tension with complex moral dilemmas. Both films stand out for their haunting realism, exploring how fear and survival can turn humans into greater threats than the monsters themselves.